The courtroom smelled like lemon polish and old lies when I realized my husband was about to erase me.
Not divorce me. Erase me.
He sat 10 feet away, tailored suit, silver hair perfectly combed, whispering confidently to his attorney, already living in a future where I no longer existed as a person, only a problem. And the only person who could stop him was 12 years old. Before I tell you how my own husband tried to have me declared mentally unfit, and how a child exposed him in open court, I want to know where you're watching from.
Drop your city in the comments.
And if you believe that underestimating a woman who survived 40 years of quiet control is a dangerous mistake, hit subscribe. Because this story ends in one of the most satisfying courtroom reckonings you'll ever hear.
My name is Eleanor Price.
I was 62 years old when I finally said the word no.
It wasn't loud. It wasn't brave.
It didn't come with a speech or a suitcase packed at the door.
It came out thin, almost fragile, but it landed like an earthquake.
We lived in Phoenix, Arizona, a city that teaches you endurance whether you want to learn it or not.
Summers that press down on your chest.
Sunlight so bright it feels invasive.
You don't fight it. You adapt. You conserve energy. You survive.
That's how my marriage worked, too. I had been married to Thomas Price for 40 years. 4 decades of learning how to disappear without physically leaving a room.
I used to be a nurse. Pediatric ward. Night shifts.
Sticky hands grabbing my fingers. Children crying until I sang off-key lullabies just to calm them down.
I was good at it. I mattered there.
Thomas told me his career needed focus.
Just for a few years. Then the years stacked up. Promotions. Raises.
A house that looked impressive from the street and felt smaller every season on the inside. And somewhere along the way, my life became a series of tasks completed for someone else. That Tuesday morning started like all the others. I woke before my alarm because my body no longer trusted rest. The ceiling fan hummed softly. Thomas slept beside me, already annoyed by something I hadn't done yet. In the kitchen, the tile was cool under my feet.
Eggs cracked. Toast browned. Coffee brewed.
I measured everything precisely, not because he'd asked, but because I'd learned that precision reduced conflict.
Eleanor.
His voice cut through the house from upstairs.
Sharp. Commanding. Where's my gray tie? The silk one.
My shoulders tightened before my mind caught up.
I pictured it instantly. Hung straight. Second rack. Left side. I'd steamed it the night before.
It's in your closet, I called.
Second rack. Left side.
There was a pause. Then the sound of drawers yanked open. Hangers clattering like accusation. I stood still, listening. This part always mattered. If he didn't find it, the day would turn ugly fast.
Finally, silence. Then footsteps. Controlled. Victorious.
He came downstairs already wearing it, not perfect, irritation unresolved.
Coffee's cold, he said, not looking at me. Steam curled up from the mug. My fingers twitched.
I wanted to say something.
Anything.
Instead, I poured it down the sink. That's the thing about long-term control, it trains you to betray yourself automatically.
He sat. Opened his tablet. Scrolled through news he didn't read.
We need to talk about your sister, he said.
My stomach sank.
Dorothy was my oxygen.
Weekly lunches.
Laughter that reminded me who I used to be.
She's filling your head with ideas, Thomas continued. You've been forgetful lately. Emotional.
I don't think it's healthy for you to be around her so much.
Forgetful.
That word had been appearing more often. Slipped casually into conversations like a warning label.
We're just having lunch, I said. No, he replied calmly. You're not. Call her. Cancel.
Something inside me recoiled. Not exploded.
Recoiled.
Like a muscle that had been overstretched for decades and finally spasmed.
I felt heat rise behind my eyes.
My heart beat hard enough to be distracting. I saw myself from the outside, 62 years old, apron on, hands slightly shaking. And I heard a voice that hadn't spoken in years.
No. He looked up slowly. The silence was enormous. What did you say? My mouth was dry. My legs felt weak. I said no. I'm having lunch with my sister. His chair scraped back violently. After everything I've given you, he snapped. This house. This life. You want to embarrass me now?
I watched his face redden, watched 40 years of entitlement surface.
Fine, he said finally.
But don't come crying to me when you realize how good you had it. That afternoon, sitting across from Dorothy in a sunlit cafe, my hands wouldn't stop trembling. But something else was happening too. I was remembering myself. And that was the beginning of the end. After that lunch with Dorothy, I didn't walk back into my life the same way.
I didn't slam doors. I didn't announce decisions. I didn't threaten or demand.
I simply returned home carrying something dangerous.
Awareness.
The house looked exactly the same when I opened the door.
Same couch cushions.
Same framed photos of vacations where I remembered smiling more for the camera than for myself. Same faint scent of lemon cleaner and control. Thomas was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through his tablet.
He looked up. Did you have a nice time? He asked. The tone was neutral. Almost kind.
That's how I knew I was in trouble.
Yes, I said. He nodded once. Good. No argument. No lecture.
That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my body tense, listening to his breathing beside me.
Slow. Even. Unbothered. He wasn't angry. He was adjusting.
Over the next few days, his behavior changed in ways so subtle I almost missed them.
Almost.
Did you take your vitamins? He asked one morning.
Yes. You sure? You forgot them last Tuesday. I hadn't. But I hesitated. Just long enough. He noticed. Later that day. You left the porch light on overnight. That's not like you. Another pause. Had I?
By the end of the week, my confidence felt thinner. Like paper rubbed too many times. That's how gaslighting works.
It doesn't scream.
It whispers until your own thoughts start sounding untrustworthy. A few days later he suggested casually that maybe I shouldn't drive at night anymore. Just until things stabilize, he said, cutting his food carefully. Phoenix traffic can be overwhelming.
Overwhelming.
The word stuck with me. That night, I cried in the bathroom with the fan running so he wouldn't hear. Not because I believed him, but because I was terrified that one day, someone else might. The first real threat came disguised as concern. I spoke to a doctor today, Thomas said one evening, as if he were commenting on the weather.
My stomach dropped. A doctor? Yes.
An old colleague's wife went through something similar.
Memory issues. Confusion. Early intervention helps.
Something in me went very still.
You talked to a doctor about me, I said.
Because I care, he replied smoothly.
Someone has to be realistic. Realistic.
That word landed like a verdict.
I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I started planning.
3 days later, while he was at the gym, I packed one suitcase.
Not everything. Just enough. Clothes. Toiletries.
My sketchbook, the one I hadn't opened in years but couldn't leave behind.
A few photos.
I left the house key on the counter.
No note.
I didn't owe him an explanation.
I'd given him 40 years. Rachel opened the door before I knocked.
The moment I stepped inside her house, my knees buckled.
She caught me. I've got you, she whispered.
I shook in her arms like my body was finally releasing decades of tension.
You're safe, she said again. I wanted to believe her.
Living with Rachel and Ava felt unreal at first.
No one monitored what I ate.
No one questioned where I went.
No one corrected my memory.
Ava watched me closely though.
Quiet. Observant.
Her eyes followed everything. One night while we were doing homework at the table, she asked softly, "Did Grandpa always talk to you like you were wrong?" The question hit me harder than any insult.
Yes, I said. She nodded.
Like that explained something she'd been carrying alone. That's when I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. The phone calls started soon after.
Late at night.
Voicemails he didn't think I'd save.
You're embarrassing yourself. People are worried about you.
You can still come home if you stop this nonsense.
Each message felt carefully crafted. Calm. Reasonable. Dangerous.
Rachel insisted I hire a lawyer.
That's how I met Linda Park.
She didn't waste time on sympathy.
Has he threatened your competence? She asked.
Yes. Then document everything, she said.
Because men like this don't panic. They escalate.
The first hearing confirmed it. Thomas sat confidently beside his attorney, already laying groundwork.
She's become forgetful. She's emotionally reactive. She's been influenced.
Then the word entered the record.
Dementia.
I felt the room tilt. This wasn't about winning anymore. This was about erasing me. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Ava had already heard him.
Weeks earlier.
She'd been on the stairs when Thomas came over to speak to Rachel.
He didn't know she was there.
Didn't know she was listening. Didn't know children hear more than adults think. She heard the way his voice sharpened when he talked about me like property.
She heard the plan.
And instead of panicking, she did something extraordinary. She took her mother's old tablet.
And she started recording.
Not out of anger.
Out of fear.
Fear that if she didn't, someone would believe him.
Fear that I would disappear quietly.
Children understand fairness long before they understand law.
The revenge didn't come from rage.
It came from preservation. From the instinct to protect someone who couldn't protect themselves anymore. By the time I realized how far Thomas was willing to go, it was almost too late. But Ava had already been waiting.
Already listening.
Already telling the truth, silently, patiently, until the moment it mattered most. And that moment was coming. The morning of the hearing, I woke up before the alarm.
Not from panic. From stillness.
The kind that settles in when your body finally understands something your mind has been circling for weeks. Whatever happens today, the worst has already passed.
The fear has already been survived. I lay there listening to the quiet house. No footsteps above me. No irritation waiting in the air.
Just the low hum of the refrigerator and the soft rush of the AC fighting the Arizona heat.
I dressed slowly. Carefully. Not for him. For me.
Rachel was already awake, coffee in hand, eyes scanning my face the way daughters do when they're trying to be brave for their mothers.
You ready? She asked. I nodded. I thought I was.
Ava came down the stairs last.
Backpack over her shoulder. Jaw set too tight for a 12-year-old.
She looked older than she should have that morning, like someone who'd learned too early that adults don't always protect each other.
In the car, no one spoke much.
Phoenix stretched out around us, sunlight bouncing off glass buildings, traffic humming like nothing monumental was about to happen.
But for me, everything was about to happen.
The courthouse loomed pale and square against the sky.
Inside, the air was cool, sterile, and heavy with echoes. Shoes clicked. Papers rustled.
Voices dropped instinctively, as if truth itself demanded quiet.
And then I saw him. Thomas was already seated when we entered. He looked relaxed. Perfectly tailored suit. Hair neatly combed.
Hands folded like a man attending a meeting he expected to run. When his eyes met mine, his mouth curved, not into a smile, but into something worse.
Certainty.
He believed he had already won. I felt a familiar tightening in my chest, but it didn't swallow me this time.
I recognized it now. Not weakness. Memory.
40 years of being trained to doubt myself.
I sat beside Linda, my attorney. She gave my hand a brief squeeze.
Remember, she murmured, you don't need to prove who you are.
You already know. The judge entered. Everyone stood.
The room settled into that unnatural hush where every breath feels audible.
Thomas's attorney began smoothly. Confidently.
Using words like concern and well-being and caregiver strain. painting a picture of a devoted husband struggling to protect a wife who had become, in his words, unpredictable. "She has withdrawn from familiar routines," he said. "She's become emotionally reactive. She's been influenced by outside parties." Each sentence landed like a rewrite of my life. Then came the word I'd been bracing for: dementia. It slid into the courtroom like poison wrapped in professionalism. My hands went cold. This was it. If they succeeded, if the court even entertained it, I wouldn't just lose money. I'd lose authority over my own existence. That's when Ava stood up. The sound of the chair scraping back was sharp. Startling. It cut through the courtroom like a blade. "Your Honor," she said. Her voice didn't shake. Mine did, just hearing it. Every head turned. The judge looked surprised, but not annoyed. "Yes," she said gently. "My name is Ava Price," Ava continued. "I'm Eleanor's granddaughter. And I have something you need to hear." Thomas stiffened. Not panicked. Alert. The way predators do when the environment changes unexpectedly. His attorney half rose. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular." The judge raised a hand. "I'll allow it." Ava walked forward, shoulders squared, and handed the tablet to the clerk. "I didn't tell my grandma," she said, "because I didn't want to scare her. But I heard my grandpa talking. And it didn't sound like love." The room went completely still. She pressed play. Thomas's voice filled the courtroom, clear, unmistakable, stripped of all pretense. "I don't care what the lawyer says. She's not getting half." A murmur rippled through the gallery. "I'll get a doctor to say what I need him to say. Dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever works. Once that's on record, I control everything." I felt my breath leave my body. Not because I was shocked. Because hearing it aloud validated every instinct I'd ever been told to suppress. The recording continued. Calculations. Threats. Mockery. "She embarrassed me. Walked out after 40 years. She's not going to get away with that." My heart pounded, not with fear, but with something sharper. Rage, finally allowed to exist. The recording ended. Silence. The kind that presses on your ears. The judge didn't look at me. She looked directly at Thomas. "Mr. Price," she said slowly, "did you just admit to planning fraud upon this court?" Thomas shot to his feet. "That recording was obtained illegally." "In a private home where you had no expectation of privacy," the judge replied coldly. "And it appears to document an intent to fabricate medical evidence." Linda stood. "Your Honor, we move to dismiss the competency request immediately and request a protective order." "Granted." Just like that. Thomas's confidence cracked, not loudly. Subtly. His shoulders sagged. His face lost color. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Price," she said, "you do not frighten this court. You discussed it." I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I felt something deeper. Relief. The hearing ended with orders I never thought I'd hear: no contact. No visitation requests. Referral to the district attorney for review. As we walked out, Ava finally looked at me. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner," she whispered. I pulled her into my arms. "You protected me," I said. "That's nothing to apologize for." 2 weeks later, the divorce finalized. Thomas had a new attorney. A quieter one. The settlement was swift. Clinical. Half the assets. Clean separation. No appeals. When the judge signed the final order, the sound of the pen scratching paper felt louder than any gavel. It was over. Outside, the sun hit my face, and for the first time, it didn't feel oppressive. It felt open. I bought a small condo not far from Rachel's place. White walls. Big windows. A spare room that became my studio. I unpacked slowly. Deliberately. I drink my coffee hot now. I don't rush it. I paint. Watercolors at first. Then oils. Landscapes. Light. Ava keeps the tablet on a shelf in my studio. Not as evidence. As proof. That silence can be broken. That truth doesn't need permission. I am 63 years old. I am divorced. I am an artist. And for the first time in my life, I belong to myself. If this story stayed with you, don't just scroll away. Hit like so more people who need to hear this can find it. And tell me in the comments. What moment in this story hit you the hardest? The courtroom recording, the betrayal, or the quiet freedom at the end? If you believe it's never too late to reclaim your life, subscribe for more true stories where patience turns into justice. Your support helps these voices be heard.